What is going on, everyone? We are Tottenham TV here, back again with another episode of the Tottenham Hour podcast, and it's in person this time. It's not live over stream like usual, and I'm absolute pleasure today to have in person not only David from the Irish Hotspur, who you've seen most of this week, but also Jack Kinecki, as a nice surprise as well, is in the studio. Big up, Jack. Thanks for coming. Obviously, we've got Ben as well over there. He's obviously joining us today. Absolute brilliant lineup we have in the studio. How are you doing, guys?
Star-studded. Come on.
Exactly. The four horsemen of the Tottenham YouTube. Love it. How are we doing? Jack, first of all, let's go to Jack, as he's new on the stream today. How's it being in England? And thank you for coming in.
Yeah, it's an honor. I would say the UK has treated me well so far. I would say these guys do in fact glow in person. I've been saying that to them 1,000 times. They do in fact exist. They are real to all the Americans out there. It's a real honor.
And the studio exists as well. It's not just a green screen, is it?
It's not a figment of my imagination. I haven't been speaking to myself this whole time. All these people are real. But yeah, the UK has been gorgeous. I must say, I've said this 1,000 times. Last time I'll say it. Manchester was spectacular. Edinburgh felt like it was lost in time. And now back home in London to sing on the boys. It's an honor.
It. And David, I'm getting too used to having you around these days, but how you been?
Honestly, I feel at home. I should end up moving in here, to be honest with you. No, look, I'm absolutely buzzing. Look, good win during the week. West Ham coming up at the weekend. I mean, there's no better time to be alive.
Yeah, and it was a good win against Brighton, keeping our top four hopes alive in a 2-0 the Amex Stadium on Wednesday night. And obviously, we got a big game coming up this weekend against West Ham. We'll start off with how things went in midweek, though. Obviously, me, David, and Ben were there at the Amex on Wednesday night. And we haven't heard your thoughts, I guess, Jack, but I don't think you managed to see most of it. But in terms of what you think of the result overall, how important did you feel that was?
I was able to, watch it, at times, with I was eating, nice little Middle Eastern kind of dish with the missus and was able to catch some of it. But from what I saw is that, like you guys said, it's kind of maybe similar to Everton and Leeds, where, how much do you really read into it when you're kind of beating up on a team that seems to be really out of form, right? And especially in Graham Potter's case, which we were, just debating about before, is he maybe going through a bad patch? It's hard to tell. And is this team was it set up for the killing? Was it set up for a beating? And I feel like from what I could tell is that maybe there are some positives to take. Maybe the fact that we can at least roll over these teams actually makes me happy, makes me know that we can get 3 points when we do need it. It's just like, how much does that really carry into this West Ham performance, especially because, I don't know about you guys, I feel like Brighton just plays really different than West Ham do. West Ham far more organized, far more pragmatic, and it makes me think that maybe, teams like Brighton we're kind of going to always maybe, have easy time with, for teams that do kind of set up defensively, teams that are organized, we're probably going to struggle against. And hopefully Sunday I might bring the luck to maybe break down that team for sure.
Yeah, and it should be a massive game on Sunday. David, obviously a lot has been made of our form being very inconsistent. I think win-loss for the past 15 games or so. But do you see, despite the form, maybe in the results being inconsistent, do you see maybe a bit of consistency coming into our performances of late?
Yeah, look, I do. We've won 3 out of our last 5. I know people say, that screams inconsistency. But look, we bet Leeds, we bet Everton well, we bet Brighton well. For me, it all comes down to West Ham, though, to be honest with you, Sim. I think if we beat West Ham, you get them back-to-back victories. I think it can kind of put an end to that notion that we are a bit inconsistent. But look, we also have to understand that during this period where people are saying we've been inconsistent, we've had a lot of injury problems and stuff like that. And it's only recently that Antonio Conte, maybe from the City game onwards, he's been able to put out his best team week in, week out most weeks. And for me, I think that is always going to take an adaptation period to be able to gel and everyone understand each other's games and everything else like that. And I just think the West Ham game will be the culmination of everything we've been working on in the last few weeks. I think that'll put an end to the doubts of the inconsistency. Because look, fans need that back-to-back wins to kind of get the hope again into the fan base, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and what do you think, Ben? Do you think that despite the inconsistent results, do you think performances are definitely going in the right direction in the past few games? And do you think Brighton was a good response to what the defeat at Old Trafford, despite a half decent display?
Yeah, I felt. Look, I think that what you can say we're consistent at the moment is scoring goals, which you can't have said throughout the whole season, right? So Conte is alluding to, we're a team ready to fight now. He's starting to get more trust within this team. Not much trust outside the first 11, might I add, but trust in this first team right now. So you got to say there is some sort of consistencies creeping in, but it's our defensive flaws that are really letting us down time and time again. But when you're looking at the Brighton game, I thought we did start it a bit sloppy. We didn't start it as we would have liked, but I think once that second half started, we really showed them what we're all about. I mean, look, they did start a bit on top of us, Brighton, but once we got that goal, it was all one-way traffic, and I think that we should have scored probably 3 or 4 goals that game.
Yeah, we were given us a lot of presentable opportunities, weren't we? Especially ones that Brighton were gifting us, and a lot of mistakes from the back. And do you think, though, we still, even in the Brighton game, I know we scored a couple of goals, but in terms of creating chances ourselves, we didn't do much of that, did we? Brighton were the ones giving us the chances.
Well, yeah, in the first half, you had that Harry Kane chance when he tackles the keeper and goes through on goal, misses that. Obviously, Kulusevski as well works off a mistake from the back from Duffy, I think it was, and that presented a chance for us. But yeah, I think you're right. We kind of capitalised on Brighton's mistakes on the weekend, and I don't think you're going to be getting those presentable chances from West Ham. So we're going to have to work at better building up from the back and catching them off guard, because they're not going to make those defensive errors that Brighton did.
Definitely not. Yeah.
I think it was a bit of both, because Reguilon also had a couple of chances as well that he didn't take. So I think, look, the one with Kulusevski off Shane Duffy, I mean, he earned that. I know Brighton made a mistake, but if Kulusevski didn't do the work to put the pressure on him, that wouldn't have happened. Same as Kane from Sanchez, the goalkeeper. So I think it's a bit of both. I think, they gave up stuff, but we also earned that, I think, too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and Ben alluded to, we're starting to score a lot more goals, and Conte's been commenting on that as well. But we have kept 3 clean sheets in the past 5, albeit against Brighton, Everton and Leeds, teams who are pretty out of form. But I'll go David on this one. Do you feel like there's an improvement at the back, or you can't really read too much into those clean sheets for you?
Look, I struggled to read too much into the clean sheets, because you look at Everton, they're not really scoring. I think they said last night when we were watching the game, I think they've got 28, 29 goals all season. It's not great. You look at the Leeds game, to be honest with you, look, they're relegation fodder, so I don't think you can really take too much from that. And then the Brighton game again. Look, Brighton don't really score too much goals, so it's kind of teams that I'm expecting to kind of keep clean sheets against, to be honest with you. So for me, I don't think you can read too much into it, but what it does do, with them little games, you can take that as a platform to build off, to move forward, take it into some of these bigger games. I think the difference between some of them smaller games and the bigger games is just sometimes you look at it and it has been set pieces or just players just switching off at that moment where you can't do, especially because in the bigger games you're going to be under a bit more pressure, so you can't afford to switch off. Against some of the teams that we've just spoke about, Leeds, Brighton, Everton, I mean, you can afford to kind of switch off and get away with it, like we've seen against Leeds. They had, I think, like 19 shots on our goal or something like that. So it just goes to show, against them teams, you can afford to switch off and get away with it. But against the bigger teams, you get punished because they have better quality. So I think you can't really read too much into it. But like I said, it's definitely a platform you can build off. You have to start somewhere at the end of the day.
Also, the facts of the matter is, in the last 5 games, right, the games that we've won, Everton, Leeds and Brighton, all of them play into our hands. They come at us, they leave space in behind. And not only do they play into our hands, but they were probably in the bottom 3 form in the Premier League at the time. Everton on shocking form, Leeds were on shocking form, lost their manager the next game, and obviously Brighton lost their last 6 games. When we've come up against teams that really test us and don't play to the way we want to play, the Man United, who sat back a little bit, Burnley as well, who sit in a low block, we've come unstuck. So this game this weekend is going to be another game of that ilk. So if we can get past this game with 3 points, I think that says a lot. I really do.
I mean, I just want to ask quickly, though, because I did watch the Man United game. I know it was disappointing for us, but I would say I started to see at least some elements of improvement with the team that was sitting back against us, because you saw how organized it actually felt like we were in possession. I know we didn't really create as much as we probably would have liked to. Then again, that's always what it's like when you come up against a team that's playing that pragmatically. But what I did notice was the way that they were trying to move the ball about, the way that they were trying to ping passes left and right, especially what we see with what Dyer and Romero tried to do with the ball. It kind of felt like they were going maybe for something, maybe a bit different. They were trying to break down the team a bit better.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I actually think against Man United, I think it wasn't necessarily maybe our chances created and that was impressive, but definitely the the pressing game was very impressive. The way we were able to pen a team like Man United in, who have very efficient, very effective creative players like Pogba and Sancho and these. I know Sancho got away a couple of times, but I think by and large throughout a lot of the game, the pressing was there, wasn't it? And we were having a lot of the possession, and we were winning the ball back very, very often. And Man United a lot of the time struggled to get out, although they did on a few occasions, and they punished us when they did. But do you feel like sometimes, like for example against Middlesbrough, when we're trying to press, it doesn't come off for us? Maybe it's the personnel that was on the pitch that helped us that game.
To be fair, like you would say that maybe with this consistency of having Bentancur and Højbjerg together, I would probably say that is our best shot of doing exactly what you were just saying, which is winning the ball back in areas that we know we can do a lot with it. Maybe the reason that Højbjerg is in fact in maybe better form than maybe what we're used to recently is because he's able to win the ball high up the pitch. We've constantly all season been talking about we want the Højbjerg from the Euros, we want the Højbjerg from Denmark that was winning the ball high up the pitch, threading in through balls, being the guy that can be that destroyer. He doesn't need to always be sitting super deep. If you give him the license to go a bit further forward, he can knock, an old man like Matic off the ball. He can knock somebody off the ball and win the ball back for us and do something that maybe, the rest of our midfielders just simply can't. I know Bentancur can, but that's only been recent. It does maybe feel like, how can we get the best out of maybe this team? I've been thinking about this, guys. We've always talking about consistency, get a spell of games. All these players, even to Winks, to Ben Davies, to even probably Romero, they all say you want a consistent run of games to be able to get a bit of form, to be able to get a bit of confidence. Perhaps with Conte continuing to go with the same lineup, continuing to go with similar sort of tactics and formation, maybe that is building that consistency that we're looking for, and we just have to be patient.
And I just want to add as well, I mean, it's no coincidence that we're starting to turn over the ball a lot more now that we've got a partnership in midfield of Højbjerg and Bentancur who understand each other, who both want to win the ball, but both can look after the ball. I mean, before that we were having Harry Winks in there, and I don't want to keep a rating on the guy, but when he is in there, teams feel they can just come down through our middle. Whereas with Bentancur and Højbjerg in there, they try it, they just turn the ball over.
They'll leave a mark on you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not as easy for them to come through the middle when you have two people in there. Because at times we were watching Højbjerg pressing, and then he's just being passed around because Harry Winks is 10 yards behind him on holiday. You know what I mean? You can't have that. But when you see Højbjerg and Bentancur, even take it back to Man City. Højbjerg went, Bentancur went. Bentancur went, Højbjerg went. And it's two players that, they feed off each other. And I think that's why you're seeing us turn over the ball a lot more and being a bit more competitive in games.
And do you think maybe as well, I'll go to Ben on this one, we are scoring a lot more goals recently, maybe Kulusevski's influence in the final third is definitely a big factor to that, because his decision making seems like on a different level to what we've previously had in that right hand sided position. And ever since he started to come into the team, the goal output has just shot up whenever he started, really, hasn't it? Because his first start was City, and we probably just haven't looked back.
Yeah, and you just look at his goal input alone with goals and assists has been night and day. I mean, he's probably done more in terms of goal output since coming in the Man City game than Lucas Moura done in the whole first half of the season.
Wow.
I believe Lucas is on 2 goals and 5 assists all season, and Kulusevski's already at 2 goals and 4 assists.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, it's very close to it anyway. So I think that when you're looking at the way Kulusevski plays, he's so good to watch. I mean, his quick feet, he makes the right decisions, decisive decisions as well. And you see, it's not just his decision making as well, but it's the space he creates on the other areas of the pitch. Because before they only had to worry about Kane and Son, now they have to worry about all 3 of them. So it's a great option to have, and I'm loving the ginger from Sweden. Absolutely loving him.
And I just want to add to that as well, just alluding to what Ben was saying there, that the space he's creating. If you look at Kulusevski, how many times have we seen him out on the byline, right touch to the byline out there sometimes? Lucas Moura wasn't doing that. Lucas Moura wanted to stay inside. And plus with Lucas Moura, he was running himself into trouble, whereas Kulusevski is too smart to do that. I think that's why you're seeing much more goals from this team since Kulusevski has come in.
Just quickly, I think what's actually kind of interesting about that is I've been trying to maybe see something with what Lucas's movement is. I thought, maybe the manager is trying to tell him to move inside. Maybe the manager is thinking, Lucas, that's where he best operates. Let's push him inside. Maybe that's just Lucas just on his own, just always trying to push inside and always trying to create there, where Kulusevski gives you that threat out wide, gives you that ability to cut inside, but also take it down the byline, where it just felt like maybe Lucas just always just wants to operate in the middle, and maybe that did hurt us.
And I think the reason why Lucas probably prefers to operate in the middle, though, Jack, is purely because Jose Mourinho put him in there, and it was his best position. It was his best probably run of form in a Tottenham jersey. He looked good because he can go left, he can go right. if he is out on the touchline, it's very easy to show him out one way, take the ball off him.
Yeah, and when it comes to Kulusevski, when he first made his first few appearances, a lot of fans were complaining, "Oh, this guy's not quick enough. He lacks pace. Is he going to be able to make it in the Premier League when it's very fast paced and you need to exploit a lot of space?" And Lucas is the one who is definitely, if you ask me who's faster, it's definitely Lucas Moura. But doesn't it prove that pace isn't everything in football, and sometimes game intelligence, and even when you're dribbling, like balance and knowing when to attack a player and when to take him on his weaker foot and things like that are just as important as being able to just run past someone.
Absolutely. Like, I actually probably would even say my favorite players probably of all time maybe don't have any pace whatsoever. In fact, I think actually any sort of dribbler that doesn't need pace in order to get by his man, that takes real skill, especially at this sort of level. And in the case of Kulusevski, we were joking about earlier, it's almost like these kind of lanky, dangly sort of kind of techers where maybe he's actually, since he's not small and agile like most kind of forwards, he actually is a bit shiftier because he's so long. What made Berbatov even so great is the fact that he's so shifty and doesn't need that sort of pace. The best strikers who even have a bit of techers on them, they always have that bit of kind of hip movement. They always have those eyes. They always can do head fakes and whatnot, and that's usually what sells most defenders anyway. You don't need to just Saint Maximin or like Traore just blow past them every time. You can just outsmart them with a bit of body movement, with a bit of body feints, and to a degree, that's what makes a really talented player, the fact that they don't need to rely always on those physical attributes in order to get by their guy. And to be fair, I think that just says a lot about how good of a player he is, and even honestly, it's kind of my favorite type of player, I would say.
And for me, I just think, pace is obviously a good attribute, but I also think it's overrated. I think up here has to work quicker than down there.
Fair.
And especially in the modern game, in terms of the crowd, the media around it, how much better or how much football has probably improved tactically and everything else. So I think up here now has to work quicker than down there. And if you have it up here, you'll always make it. If you just have pace, you don't always make it. Look, if you want pace, go and get Usain Bolt, fastest guy in the world, But for me, you have to have the football ability to go with it. I'm not saying Lucas Moura doesn't have the ability, but I just think his feet moves quicker than what his head can think.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably his biggest problem.
And he kind of like sees the game a few steps in front of everyone else, Kulusevski, and like you see players like that in the past, like a Berbatov, like you say, like a Teddy Sheringham,
good example.
not kind of blessed with the best pace in the world, but they work so well with the team because they can see where people are making the run.
Yes.
They see what spaces to move into. They see what passes to make before anyone else, before the defenders can see it. So I think that's why he's such an asset to us.
Yeah.
A lot of players rely on their pace to get them out of situations if they do have it, and they don't really have to think. But like Ben was saying, the players without the pace, they're always thinking. They're always, what space can I move in to receive the ball? Where will other people be? Like Benji was saying there. So, look, I think people with pace, sometimes they're a bit lazy and they just use it to get themselves out of trouble without actually thinking.
Lucas Moura spent the first half of the season being our number one right winger and being actually one of our better players, probably one of the first names to the team sheet for the majority of the season. But do you now feel maybe we've seen the last of maybe Lucas Moura as a consistent starter in this team, like as a player who's going to be our number one right winger?
Look, I think so. Look, I don't think we should ever get ourselves into a situation at Tottenham Hotspur again where we're praising a player for his work ethic, and that's why he's being picked. Which was what was happening with Lucas Moura, if we're really being honest. Every single one of us Spurs fans were completely frustrated with the lack of output in his game. And after the games, it was always, oh, but he works hard. Oh, but he runs. That should be the bare minimum of any player. Any player coming wearing the Tottenham Hotspur jersey. Bare minimum should be works hard and runs about, at the least. And especially in the forward areas, I don't think we should ever put ourselves in that situation again where like I said already, that we're relying on a player who works hard. For me, we should never put ourselves in that situation.
To be fair to Lucas, though, just quickly, it's maybe just more next season between him and Bergwijn, which one can make better impacts off the bench, which one can be able to change that dynamic, someone that can just come off the bench roaring to go. And maybe Lucas Moura obviously has a much better track record of that than maybe anybody, but I think that's what's going to be the case for next season, even for the rest of this season, is who comes off the bench to replace Kulusevski or maybe even Sonny in order to bring that spark. And you could probably say, despite how much maybe we've said Lucas is limited, I think he actually sometimes has a better chance of bringing a bit of spark into the game than maybe Bergwijn does. But then again, I've been loving what I've been seeing from Bergwijn. I think that's just which person can do the most with 15 minutes when they come off the bench.
But with how teams are setting up against us as well, like there's been a blueprint out there for how teams can beat Tottenham Hotspur this season. And with teams sitting back, it doesn't suit someone like Lucas Moura. It actually suits someone like Kulusevski, who can actually put in crosses, slip them little balls down the side of defenders that Lucas would not see. And I think the way teams are playing against us is actually suiting Kulusevski more than what it ever does Lucas Moura.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Kulu's really hit the ground running. He's kind of opened everyone's eyes as to what's possible once we have someone who can actually consistently provide in that final third. Do you, Ben, do you expect both of... Oh, sorry. Since Kulu's come to the team, obviously Lucas Moura has been on the periphery, but when he has come on...
This is the Kulu hour. I love it.
but talking about Lucas, like when he has got on the pitch, or since Kulu's been starting, when he has got on the pitch, Lucas, he does see something seems very off with him at the moment. He doesn't. I don't know if he's long confidence or whatnot, but he had Bergwijn seems to impact the game when he's coming on, but Lucas at the moment isn't right now. Past 6 games,
you got to get in the mindset of Lucas Moura, right? He's been at Spurs for how long? Since 2018, right?
Yeah.
And this year was the first year where he's knuckled down a proper starting role, week in, week out, from the start of the season. It's come to January. We've brought in a replacement for him, and he's like, all right, what's my role here now? What's my role here now? So you've got to get into that psychology, being like, I've worked so hard all these years to finally get a starting role, and at the first opportunity, they've got a replacement, and already he's doing better output than me. And not only that, but this guy's a 21-year kid coming from a different league who's never played the Premier League, and already he looks more ready-made than me, and all this stuff. He's progressed in every single level apart from the speed. That's the only thing where Lucas has over him, really. So you've got to get in that psychology of Lucas Moura. It's got to be affecting his mentality and the way he's thinking. And I actually think if it carries on and Lucas doesn't get much game time from now to the end of the season, I've got a feeling he might ask to leave in the summer.
Interesting.
Would you guys be open to letting Lucas Moura leave in the summer?
I know Dave's about to roast me for this since he just spoke about how we're not allowed to praise somebody for work ethic and things like that. This is not what it's going to be about. But we have seen that Lucas Moura has been almost like an ambassador for kind of the club. Where when we brought in Vinicius Jr., he was not Vinicius Jr., much worse version. Yeah. The other Vinicius. We brought in the other Vinicius. He was an ambassador for him. We saw that video. I think it was very heartwarming. As well as in the case with Emerson Royal, he came in with Emerson Royal, was able to be kind of an ambassador for Portuguese-speaking players or either Brazilian players, especially new to the Premier League and whatnot. And I know Dave's about to roast, that because why are we praising people for that sort of kind of role? But maybe that's what keeps him around. But to be fair, with what you just said about how Bergwijn actually has been looking better coming off the bench in 15 minutes of time, Lucas maybe is to 2 degrees selling himself out, or maybe is just not finding the motivation that you were even talking about as well, Ben, that we actually thought was there. But I would say what I have always liked about Lucas Moura, he's been kind of a bit of an ambassador, I would say, for the club.
So David is speaking Portuguese enough to keep Lucas around?
Look, don't get me wrong, right? Everything everybody has listed are all good assets. But I mean, that's... Someone from like James Milner's age, 34, 35, 36, yeah, grand, keep them around, let them, new boys coming into the club, whatever, speak the language, introduce them, help them settle in, fine. At 34, 35, I can accept that. But, this is a guy that he missed out on the Champions League final at Tottenham. You think he would have kicked on from there? You think he would have used that as his motivation? Yeah. Saying, okay, well, they didn't, I missed out on that, so what am I going to do? I'm going to go back, I'm going to work even harder. I'm going to make sure I'm never dropped again. It doesn't seem like he's done that. Look, this is not the same guy that I seen when he first came to Europe at PSG. This is a guy at PSG who used his pace to maximum, and he was skinning players, cutting in, rifling shots into top corner. And he doesn't even do that anymore. So for me, look, I wouldn't keep him around personally. I think... Thank you very much for the hat-trick against Ajax. Thank you very much for sending me to the Champions League final, and the boys as well who actually got to go over to Madrid. Thank you very much. But we have to move on as a club. At Tottenham, we have this thing where, and I get it, like we love every single player, but if we're all being brutally honest with ourselves, sometimes we don't want to let them go. We're always saying, we can get more out of them. Or, if we just do this, if we just do that. Sometimes you just got to accept, look, it's not working out. Move on, get the next guy in to do it. If we want to go, we're us fan base where we're always talking about competing, winning trophies, we have to understand that football is the most ruthless business out there. Yeah. And we also have to be ruthless. It's that simple. You can't hold on to nostalgia moments. You can't sit there, and stroke your heart on because the guy scored a hat-trick against Ajax. Sometimes you just got to say, look, he's not good enough anymore. Get the next guy in.
That night was the best night of my life. That's no night to be just breezed
Look, it's
over.
definitely strokeable,
but the thing is with Lucas Moura though, I actually think consistently he's played his best football post that game, post the Champions League final. I think when Mourinho came in, when he put him in the number 10, I thought he was brilliant then. And actually, first half of the season, I know his output hasn't been as good as Kulu, but I think he was one of our better players in the first half of the season.
But is it to a level? Is it to a level where it's undroppable?
No, it's obviously not. But on the flip side of that, 29 years of age. Are you going to get a better fee for him than you're going to get this summer?
You get more out of it. You get more from Bergwijn in terms of that fee. And what would you say, like 25 million? Let's say Ajax, what did they agree on? 22 million. Levy kind of, just decided to, turn them away last moment. What they probably bump it up to 25. Would you rather take 25 mil for Bergwijn or maybe take 10 million, 12 million, 15 million for Lucas? It's a tough decision.
You have to be looking at least 15, I would assume, for Lucas, even at 29.
I think between 15 and 20 million for Lucas Moura.
For the quality he has,
fair,
I think
fair.
you've got to be looking at least that.
I'm harsh.
Talk about another player, which Conte was talking about in his press conference before the West Ham game, is Romero. And obviously he had a brilliant game.
Romero. What was the other line you added to it yesterday?
Aggressively up the pitch.
We're singing that tomorrow. We're going to sing it Sunday.
He put in another great display against Brighton, didn't he? In another really good game. Conte was saying how he feels he needs to be concentrating a lot more throughout the whole game, and he sometimes loses concentration and picks up, quote, unnecessary yellow cards, unquote. And he said sometimes he tries to get his message across, but he can't say it in the nicest way because, maybe that's not how Romero responds. So he shouts at him a lot and he basically gives him a bollocking. But in terms of Romero, do you see his yellow card count as something he needs to work on and improve on, or do you see it as something like that's just what you get with Romero and you have to just kind of deal with that aspect?
I think that's a great question. I even saw you ask somebody that the other day as well, because it's like, do you take away from his best qualities by like asking him to be less aggressive, asking him to be a bit more tame? It's like taming a wild animal. You would probably say, like, do you really want those best qualities of the wild animal, and do you take the risks that come with it? You probably would say you do. I mean, even look at like somebody like Pepe from Real Madrid during his prime. Yeah, there would be days when you're just like, what is wrong with this guy? But then there'd be days where like nobody would even dare look at that guy in the eyes, kind of player. And I think every team needs a player like that. I feel like we've been lacking, players like that. In fact, I would even say players like Hojbjerg have probably been actually quite alone in that sort of kind of mindset. Even, to be fair, I kind of always have praised that. I think I am just a big fan of kind of the shithousery sort of kind of players. Even, even the players that just love physical contact. We even saw it well, like when Hugo made that spectacular save, I forget against who, like everybody, patting Hugo on the ground. Romero walks up to him, like kicks him on like the side of the ribs, just tells him to get up and everything. The guy is just somebody that I feel like brings that edge to the game, especially as well when things are tense, when things are like maybe especially going in your way. He can be that guy who maybe sparks something, puts in a hard tackle on a player, and then just maybe causes a scuffle that actually probably changes the momentum of the game when you think about it. Even in the one against Pablo Fornals, one of his first games of the season as well, sends him to the floor, whispers sweet nothings into his ear, and then it just, I don't know, I think he just simply can't take that away from him. And maybe it comes with risks. Maybe it might cost us perhaps 3 points or something, but I would also say it earns us 3 points at certain moments as well.
But Dave, quickly, just before you answer, with 8 yellow cards in the Premier League now, and he's 2 away from a suspension of 2 games, which, at this time of year could really be hurting us, with the games we've got coming up. Is that maybe what Conte's alluding to when he talks about Romero picking up unnecessary yellow cards?
Yeah, I think so. But look, we also have to understand where we're at as a club. We're in a dogfight. No better man to have in a dogfight. Look, if you're challenging for Premier Leagues and you're in the Champions League and you're going deep in all the cups, then that's an area that maybe you can work on with the guy. But right now we're in a dogfight, and too many times, especially last season and this season under Nuno, I've watched people pick up the ball, run straight through the middle of our team unchallenged. This guy, you don't dare do that, because he'll just come and take you out. And for me, I think it's inspirational as a fan. I think there's a sense of relief that every time he goes onto the pitch, I know there's someone out there that is at least going to fight, rough them up, and do everything he can to get an edge, to be honest with you. And for me, I think it's inspirational.
Would you be upset with Romero if he got suspended, though? I think, to the question, would you be upset, if he got
2-game suspension?
That's what I'm saying. With important games like the North London Derby coming up, which could be a massively pivotal game. Imagine if Romero's suspended for that game.
Yeah, but I think you just have to take the good with the bad. Look how many other times that he saved us with challenges and taking yellow cards and stuff like that when no one else wanted to do it. I think it's just one of them. It's a bit of give and take with this guy. But where we are challenging for top 4, I think you need someone like him. But whereas if we were going for like league titles and in all these competitions, I think that's when you could probably maybe speak to him about it, or you could probably analyse it more.
The fact of the matter is, the guy is really young, right? People seem to forget how young Romero actually is.
He's not even that much older than Rodon.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people forget that. So I actually think that
He's my age,
at this stage of his career, to be picking up all these yellow cards and to have Conte as your manager, he'll learn and he'll grow from it. And I think once he gets a few years under the Premier League, or maybe even just a year under the Premier League under his belt, I do feel like the yellow cards will start to decline a bit.
But the thing is as well, we knew what we were buying. Like last year, the ball was going into the forwards. They were taking it in, getting the whole team up the pitch. Let's play in Tottenham's half. With Romero, he's proactive. He tries to get in front of them, get that ball. And I don't mind that. Of course, you're going to miss time some of them challenges sometimes. But, maybe he missed times, he gets one yellow card. Harsh. But how many other times does he do it successfully?
I get that, but you're talking about needless yellow cards like that one against Everton. You know what I mean? Completely hacking Richarlison for no apparent reason and getting a booking like that. I mean, that's not really needed, and that's not even part of that aggressive nature in his game. It's got nothing to do with the football game. It was just a random thing on the side of the pitch.
That's true.
Even the Fornals one, like I said, as much as I, got out of my chair for it, didn't need to do that. And, and he gets a yellow card for it.
Yeah, how many times do you get a yellow card, not just for challenges, just for arguing, pushing
Probably half
people
of
and
them.
getting in fights? That's what that's
We have to understand, though, some players need that edge to their game for them to be able to get the best out of themselves.
like Ramos, for example.
But it's all
used to
about
always pick up cards.
channeling that innate aggression
Yes.
in yourself and doing it in the right ways and cutting out the stupid moments in the game, because you can still be as aggressive as he is, but take out those stupid moments within the game.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. I agree with that. But look, this guy is what, 23, 24?
23 now, yeah.
23. And for me, I think he's already better at his age now than what Virgil van Dijk was at 23. And for me, he's the best centre-back in the world. He has so much time to improve. Yes, this season, if he does get suspended with some of the games we have coming up, it's not ideal. But this guy's going to be here for years to come, and it's something that we can definitely work on with him.
Absolutely.
Fair enough. And also on touching on Romero as well, he's starting to get a bit more praise now for not just his off-the-ball ability, but his ability to build up play and get into the final third as well. Obviously, he got a very lucky goal against Brighton. Not too much, but, he was in the penalty area, wasn't he, and making uses of himself. We saw the second goal against Man United, he was involved in the build-up play for the second goal, and obviously was in the penalty area when Maguire slid into his own net. So how vital do you think he's become now to not just how we defend, but also how we attack?
I think I've said this before. I actually think he's our best center back in possession. I really do. I mean, as much as he takes a lot of risks with it, like David said, the player that we bought, from Atalanta or from Juventus was somebody that had some of the most aggressive numbers in the entire Serie A, if not Europe, but also had some of the best passing numbers also in Europe of last season as well. And the reason why is because what Romero does, and we've seen this before, he'll clean a guy out, he'll get stuck in, instead of just dwindling on the ball and playing it backwards, he'll play like a 70-yard pass or whatever, like right after, clearing him out, or he'll even just play it right into the striker's feet. He'll play it right into Bentancur and tell him to turn. He even gets upset. You can tell with players that don't turn and look upfield. He actually almost wants to do it himself, it feels like. And I actually maybe again you probably want him to be a bit more composed on the ball, maybe not take so many risks because he does take risks. But I feel like that is what you need in a center back, especially in a back three. I think we spoke about this plenty of times, where you can't just have three center backs that are complacent on the ball in a back three. You just then basically are playing with 8 men, or 7 men at that stage. You need one that kind of does what Antonio Rudiger does, which is just maybe just go on a barreling run, down the wing, or even just play a pass that seems a bit risky, because who knows, that might be the pass that opens up the game, opens up the goal, and it might even be the only goal that you score. So in players like Romero, I would say best center back in possession in our entire squad. And probably the reason we even got him in the first place was because not only is he aggressive, but he's actually good on the ball as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the big problems when he was out for so long. We had Sanchez in that position. We just had no build-up play from that side, did we? No. We just weren't able to get the ball up the pitch. And now you're seeing when we played Man City, for example, we had all 3 goals. Everyone says it was counters, but all 3 goals were good team moves. And Romero was at the heart of all of them, building play up. And are you seeing that side to him now, David? Like just how good he is at building up play as well?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You even take it back to the United game. Some of the involved with build-up play on the edge of the box and then follows it in and gets the reward with Maguire putting it in the own goal against Brighton. I don't know what he's doing in the box, but he's in the box and it comes off and he gets the reward. Look, for me, I think it's very crucial to have a player that you can build out from the back with. Like we said with Sanchez, I mean, it was a long, hard slog. The guy couldn't pass the ball properly. With Romero, and especially with the way football has gone nowadays, which is building up from the back through the midfield into the forward line. Because before, what we were seeing is we couldn't get out from the back, and then we end up going route one to Harry Kane, and everyone's sitting there, oh, Harry Kane, shit, Harry Kane can't do this, Harry Kane can't do that. But with Romero,
it got to you, Dave, didn't it?
Lad, honestly, it still gets to me because it's like, how can you put down a world-class player like that and say all the things that he has been doing, all of a sudden, just with a flick of the switch, he can't do it? It's ridiculous. But like, with faults in the team, other players were getting the brunt of it, which I didn't think was right. But with Romero, it's absolutely brilliant. You can pass out from the back, you can go out to your full-back, you can go into centre midfield. And like we've seen time and time again, he can also get it straight into Harry Kane's feet. And I think it's crucial for us going forward in terms of what sort of team we want to be.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's crucial for Conte's system as well.
Or also
Conte's
when
not
we're
a long
being
ball
pressed.
manager.
And when we're being pressed, we saw actually, I think the best example, was Man City, where they were doing that thing where Bernardo Silva basically was putting himself in between the two center backs, so that sideways pass between Dyer and Romero wasn't on. And basically what made that kind of easy for us was just meant Romero could just look upfield and then just ping it over to Ben Davies. We saw, like, especially in the beginning of the game, he pinged it over to Ben Davies just a few different times, just bypassed that press. And if you have players that can do that, basically it just makes a team that, tries to press you, makes it kind of null and void when someone that can actually look upfield and find somebody, hit it to their chest or hit it to their feet, one under pressure. And again, for a back three system, you need to have at least, and I mean at least, two center backs that are really good in possession.
Yeah, and as well, like, just quickly, a lot of times it was very easy. Eric Dyer was our only player that could really pass out from the back. So, now that you have different options, it means we can go different ways with the ball. Whereas before it was press the wing backs, then onto the centre backs, make moon boots go along with it. But this time you don't have to do that, because if Romero's press, it's okay, put it into Dyer. Let Dyer deal with it. So it's important that we do have these ball playing centre backs.
Yeah, and I think Romero makes a lot of the passes he does make a lot easier than, like, say, for Sanchez attempting these passes. You just shit yourself and have a heart attack.
And it comes back every other time as well.
Exactly,
It used to make my blood pressure rise.
Exactly, and Romero, I always feel like with Romero as well, he kind of waits until the last possible moment to pass it, because I feel like he's got such good ability on the ball. He can do that. Whereas Sanchez, I feel like he just tries to get rid of it as soon as possible because he knows he can't trust his own ability.
He's so panicky, isn't he, on the ball, Sanchez? And like, in comparison to Romero, he's just like a cool, calming presence, which is weird because off the ball he's completely the opposite, just an aggressive animal. But when he's on the ball, he's just a cool, calming presence, and that's what I love about him.
Yeah, and go.
Yeah, just to say what you're saying about the contact on the ball. Sometimes I actually feel like he waits for the contact just because he needs it. He loves it. He just wants to feel it. Yeah, he's like, I haven't hit someone in 10 minutes, so and then I'll pass it off. I love it. I love him.
Brilliant. Also, we do have a massive game against West Ham coming up this weekend in the race for the top four on Sunday. We don't know what the situation with the Arsenal result will be by then, but we have opportunity. Look, whatever happens in that game, we have to win on Sunday. West Ham obviously beat Sevilla in midweek 2-0, but a game did go in extra time. They did play 120 grueling minutes with pretty much their first choice team. So it goes to Jack. Well, how are you feeling about the game on Sunday? Do you feel like, how much advantage would it be that West Ham went to extra time on Thursday? Or do you feel like the fact they end up going through, that adrenaline from that win will take them through? And also on Sunday, like, how do you see the game going?
I feel like I don't want to read too much into West Ham's form, but it feels like they might actually be right now a different team away from home than they are actually at home. Because when I saw them against Sevilla, I was just kicking myself the whole time at all the chances that I thought Sevilla missed. I don't think West Ham deserved anything out of that game in that first leg over in Seville. And then as well, like the first game that was over at Spurs in the Cup as well for the Carabao, that felt like also a game where, like, they just didn't really show up. It felt like West Ham, and maybe away from home, they're just actually quite an easier team to come up against. they still kind of play the same sort of football, but it feels like maybe Antonio just doesn't really offer as much maybe when they're away from home. They also will just sit really deep and just be probably without the ball. They won't maybe, bring the game to us as much. I know we struggle with that, but it feels like recently West Ham, their form away from home hasn't been as good. I would say, though, like defeating a team like Sevilla, who have been basically the Europa League flat track bullies like for some time, it definitely would give me at least a huge confidence boost, regardless of how tired I was, because I feel like they're always the favorites to win it every single year that they're in it. So I think they would get probably a huge confidence boost from it, which does worry me. At the same time, though, I would say when I've seen them away from home, it sometimes seems like they're a different team.
It's actually interesting you say that, because I've just looked up their away form now, and it's something I just didn't realise at all. Since game week 10 of the Premier League,
Oh my gosh.
how many away games in the Premier League do you think they've won?
I've only thought like the last 4 games as well.
Tell me, just give me a
What,
number.
away
How many-
games?
Yeah. How many do you think they've won?
I'll say 3.
I was going to say 4.
Since game week 10, game week 29, so the last 19 games. Yeah, I'd have to say at least 3.
It's 2.
They've only won 2 away games.
Yeah. They've only won 2 away games
Against
since
who?
game week 10.
Wow.
And those 2 away games came at Watford and against Crystal Palace. And another game which they struggled in was against Kidderminster, which they needed to go to extra time with.
right.
They got very lucky in that game.
So, I mean, since the turn of the year, they haven't won an away game in the Premier League. Their last away game in the Premier League was on, New Year's Day.
I don't know if I can even explain that, though, as much as I was actually quite surprised that is that true, that they're bad away from home. I don't know how I can really explain it. Maybe it just has to do with the type of style that they play, where that sort of like really defensive, sort of annoying kind of style. Maybe that's just really, you get all that confidence at home. Maybe like you kind of dig in at home, it feels a bit better. And away from home, you struggle with the motivation to do it. I don't really know. I don't have an
In
answer.
my thinking, I would think that style would suit an away team more than
Right.
a home team.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe because West Ham, you were just thinking about it, maybe because they don't really win by more than a goal usually. It's always very tight with them. They don't lose by more than a goal usually. They don't usually win by more than a goal. And maybe the home crowd can make the difference when you got them behind you. Those kind of little centimetres, like those small inches, can go in their favour at home, but away from home, maybe it goes against them a bit. And maybe that's what's they're finding difficult.
I just have this feeling that we are going to try and get at them nice and early. That's why Antonio Conte has asked for the game, for the fans to make it an absolute cauldron, be in there full voice, get to your seats maybe 15 minutes beforehand and just like let the atmosphere ramp up and stuff. And I think, look, we probably will be looking to get at them early. I think we get an early goal. I think we get the first goal. I think we can go on and put in a really good shift, a really good performance, and make it very easy on ourselves. Purely because I think if West Ham go 1 down, I think it'll affect them psychologically. But as well, I think the tiredness, I think they'll start to feel it a hell of a lot more than what they would if they went 1 up. So for me, I think first goal is going to be absolutely crucial. But I am confident. Yeah, I am confident.
And how much do you think maybe the Arsenal result would affect, maybe how we go into that game on Sunday? Do you think it would change anything?
If Arsenal lose, it's probably bad for us, to be honest. We know how we handle the pressure, because if Arsenal lose this game against Aston Villa on Saturday, pressure is really on Spurs on Sunday to get a result. In terms of if I'm confident or not going into the game, I mean, I'm trying to just sweep that all to one side, because after every win, I'm being like, yeah, we're going to go win the next game. We're going to win, blah, blah, blah. And we fall flat on our faces every single time. So I'm trying to stay a bit more reserved for this one and being like, look, it's going to be a very difficult game, which it is. It's West Ham and they always bring their A game and stuff like that. But on the flip side of that, I think if we do get an early goal, they're going to have to do the majority of the running. And I think if they have to do the majority of the running, their legs are going to tire pretty quickly because of their European excursions. So I think that it's very important for us to get the early goal. But to say if I'm confident, I'm not really confident coming into this game, just because of how we've been after every win so far since the turn of the year.
How many do you think West Ham players get into our side if you do a combined 11? You got
Goalkeeper doesn't.
And Declan Rice does get in there, to be fair, the fortnight
I can't,
dancer.
except for Declan Rice.
Who's their
how
right
many-
back?
Soufal, but he's injured. But yeah, Soufal.
Soufal gets in. Their
Johnson.
centre backs.
Zuma and
Dawson Azuma.
Dawson is not a good defender. He's a menace in the air, I must say, and like maybe partially as well. Like this is West Ham, they do ride off of set pieces.
They do.
Like, it's how many goals from open play do you really see West Ham score? And actually, I would say anytime I do watch them play, they score the ugliest goals. I feel like every single time, it's like the human missile. He really is, Michael Dawson. So he's not a good defender. I think, in fact, you could take advantage of him if you do pressure him. But in the air, it's like the guy just launches himself at it every single time. Doesn't care what's in front of him. He'll go through a wall in order to get his head on it. So I would say maybe as well, that's always the threat. No matter how bad West Ham may look throughout the game, we always know they can just punch us in the mouth with kind of a set piece out of nowhere, and it's what that's their bread and butter, you know.
But the fact of the matter is, West Ham are not a team of individuals, right? They're a unit, and that's how they've made their way under Moyes from since he's took over to now. So Spurs are not really that kind of solid unit just yet. So I think that's where they're going to look to beat us. It's not them as individuals of what individuals can get into our team. It's them as a whole unit, which I'm worried about.
Yeah, probably why we wouldn't even take many players from their team into our starting 11. You could even say.
You could argue only Rice, Soufal. I mean, I can't think of too many other players because you know Caden Son will obviously get into the team.
I mean,
maybe
Jared Bowen on form gets minutes for sure.
Yeah, maybe Jared Bowen ahead of Kulusevski potentially at the moment. Maybe he gets in.
I mean, if you ask me, do you want Jared Bowen over Kulusevski? I would say no. But if Jared Bowen was in our squad, he would get minutes.
Yeah. How do you think David Moyes obviously was a figure of fun for many years after the Man United job and what he did after that with Sociedad and Sunderland? But he's really reinvigorated himself, hasn't he, at West Ham for the second time round? And how highly do you rate first of all his job? And like, do you think maybe if after West Ham he could maybe again go to maybe a better club or something like that? Do you think he's done that well at West Ham?
I think he's done a brilliant job at West Ham to take them from where they were to where they are now. European football, not only just European football, but thriving in European football, beating Sevilla, the kings of the Europa League. I think it's an absolutely unbelievable result for West Ham. I mean, to get them fighting for the top four, I know they didn't get it, but to get them fighting for it is something in itself as well. And again this season. So you got to say David Moyes is doing a brilliant job here at West Ham, but I think that would he get a bigger job than that? I mean, when you're looking at the bigger teams in the Premier League, I don't think he would get a job at any of them. He wouldn't get a job at Tottenham. He's not going to get a job at Arsenal. He's not going to be getting a job back at Man United, and the other three probably speak for themselves.
Yeah,
I just think some managers are some of their style is suited to a smaller team where it's kind of like it's the underdog mentality. It's us v them. Whereas I think, and yes, I am calling West Ham a small club, by the way. But if it comes to Tottenham, a big they are. Comes to a big club like Tottenham, I don't think he gets his hands on the job because for me, I think it's just that slightly bit different.
Is West Ham his ceiling? Do you think, Jack?
You could probably say that, but to be fair, maybe. I don't know. I think, like you said before, I think Ben, you said it. Like he's shown that West Ham can actually be a good team if they're more of a collective than they are actually just individuals. And you could say maybe David Moyes that might actually be the type of manager that he is, where he actually, if he has a bunch of players that don't have egos, that don't distract from maybe things apart from the football, he can actually get a lot out of that team. To be fair, actually, West Ham, I think, to answer your question, is actually his ceiling because he showed that he can't do it away from the UK or outside of England. He can't maybe instill the same sort of philosophy in a foreign kind of league, and then as well, like the really kind of, I would say, as much as he's been successful, it's not very pretty football either. So like you probably think then would maybe a club like Arsenal, even Spurs to a degree, we always kind of complain about the style of football that we're playing. You wouldn't really get to us. Man United, continue to want to play a better style of football. So whichever club is fine with the pragmatic defensive sort of ways that he does, I think is probably his ceiling. And when you do think about it, West Ham is pretty much that. But really, to be fair to him, has done an incredible job, especially coming back around the second time. How many managers do you know that have come back the second time around looking 1,000 times better, and also considering being a laughingstock of the Premier League kind of at one stage?
I would like to give him a pass though for the Man United job. I think that it was a terrible situation there, but I think anyone coming in under Fergie was going to struggle. I really believe that. And obviously he was the man put forward by Fergie, which I thought was the wrong choice anyway. But I think any manager coming in at that period of time would have found it hard. I really believe that.
I just think, when you go to some of these big clubs, a lot of these players have won things. And I think if Moyes walked in, he'd be like, who the fuck are you? What have you won? Put your trophies on the table. Put your medals on the table. He has none. For me,
But do you not think that getting the kind of nod from Sir Alex should demand the respect from the players? Getting that nod.
Yeah, there's also that, but there's also that Scottish sort of look. He got the nod because of the job he was doing at Everton at the time. He was doing a very good job at Everton, got them into Champions League and that. But at the end of the day, it's all well and good getting the nod from Sir Alex Ferguson because there's that Scottish thing there and they like each other. But it's still ultimately it's the players that get you sacked. It's the players that lose you your job. And it's a bit like Harry Kane. Nuno walked in. Harry Kane was like, "What is this guy?
Who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah. Why would I lay everything? Why am I going to lay everything out on the line for this guy? I don't believe in him. When a manager comes into a big club, players have to believe in him, and they're more likely to believe in a manager who has been places and done things. Just like when Conte has come into Tottenham, look how much Harry Kane's form has changed.
Yeah.
Definitely. And talking about Arsenal, obviously they do travel to Aston Villa, we're hoping Villa can get a result. It's a big game this weekend, and there's been a bit of a war of words between Arteta and Conte in their pre-match press conferences. Arteta complaining about the scheduling and how Arsenal have to play Wednesday night and then Saturday lunchtime, and he said it's completely unfair, and he said Arsenal are the only team that have to do this. And when Conte was asked about it, he said that he wants Arteta to remember what happened in the North London derby, and he said Arteta can't really speak about what's fair and unfair after what they did. What do you think about the whole exchange in this situation there?
I mean, I'm not surprised that Arteta only listens to himself, but as well, like in his case, like it's I don't know, when you play once a week, I guess you get so used to that. Maybe if I was being fed a steak dinner every single day, I'd probably get a bit upset maybe the whole time I'm not being fed a steak dinner, and it feels like that's his sort of scenario where he's so used to being able to get 5-6 days of preparation before every single game. That's especially from the start of the season as well. Like how ridiculous is that? So you kind of probably think he's actually gotten quite used to the nice life. He's gotten used to having all these days of preparation. And you also even think about it. Some of the teams that they in fact do lose to quite embarrassingly, you feel like he's always has all this time to prepare. He has all this time to prepare, and we kind of praise Arsenal, with the style of play. I agree, they've looked actually quite decent at times, but then you think we haven't ever added the context that they have 6+ days, it feels like, every single time in between games. Of course, 2 weeks in some cases. 2 weeks in some cases. Of course, it's going to look good. Of course, it's going to look like he's finally found things. He's finally made things click. He's had 6+ days, and you even said 2 weeks at times to be able to prepare for a team. So of course, it looks like he's figuring things out, and I feel like once he maybe starts getting more of these sort of fixtures that are midweek, we'll start to see maybe the true colors of of his style. To be fair to him, he's put in some good results, put in a good style of play, but I don't know, I think he's just gotten a bit too accustomed to the nice little privileged life of having one game every week.
What do you think of Conte's response, David, to what Arteta had to say?
I absolutely love it. Like, even when he turns around to him and he's like, just remember what happened in the North London derby, I think he's already laying down the gauntlet, what I mean? You wait until you come to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I can see right through you. The man's hair, the hair that can't be moved. What I mean? It's absolutely ridiculous. I think he can't wait to get him to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, get him under his arm, give him a big nuggie, move that hair, and basically show him what a real manager does. Look, if I was an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't be too inspired. This is a guy that's tasked to get you Champions League football, which means you'll be playing every 3 days. He's complaining about not having 6 days to prepare for a game. I mean, I'd be worried. But look, Conte, for me, his record speaks for itself. I think he'll have the perfect plan in place for Arsenal when they rock here.
Definitely. But Ben, Arteta's been complaining about not having 5 days. Do you think it will hurt them this weekend?
Tell us how you really feel now.
I really hope it does, man. I really hope it does. But Arteta needs to stay in his lane, man. The guy pisses me off so much. On the sidelines, always complaining, always trying to start scuffles with the other manager. I mean, this guy is his second year of management, and he thinks he's like... thinks he's like been a long stay manager, won the Champions League, won this, won that. That's the way he acts, right? Yeah. And it's unbelievable the way he acts. I mean, the guy there's not been a more privileged manager in terms of scheduling of fixtures than Arteta this season. And he has the cheek to fucking compare himself to other clubs that have been in European football and all this stuff, and call off games because of one COVID case because he sends 4 players to the AFCON and because Xhaka gets sent off every other game. And you know what I mean? It's just... It winds me up, Arteta, and I think Conte is absolutely spot on for what he said, and I back him 100%, but I really hope that they don't have enough time to prepare for this game and they'll get found out.
But this guy's an absolute idiot. This is a guy that went up against Jurgen Klopp earlier on in the season, and what did it do? Inspired Liverpool to go and absolutely smack them. You know what I mean? So for me, Look, he just needs to stop mounting. I'm absolutely delighted. I actually hope he comes to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and tries it, because I just want to see Højbjerg walk over and square up to him again with no Arsenal players doing anything about it. That showed me everything they need to know. The Arsenal players, when Højbjerg done that in pre-season, the Arsenal players do not respect him, and that's why he got rid of a lot of them.
Well, right now, the perception, at least anyway, but you can clearly see it on the pitch probably, is that Arsenal on the ascendancy. Tottenham have been, plateauing, especially as results over the past couple of years and so. But Arsenal this season especially have been definitely on the up and performances improving. But how important is it that we do finish in front of them again, and how much of a setback would it be for their project if they would again finish below us, seeing how the season's gone so far?
God.
Go to David first.
Look, I don't want any saying Totteringham's there for sure. I can't be having that.
I forgot what that is.
yeah, I have forgotten about it, but they've been bringing it back up recently.
Do you think it would be a setback to them, like if we were to finish above them again?
Oh yeah.
Oh, 100%. Look, this is their best season in ages, according to their fans at the minute. It's been a change of the culture in the club. They've got the kiddie creche out there. All the kids out there running about. Look, for me, I think we finish above them. Look how much money they've sunk into their club in the transfer windows compared to what we have. So for me, I think it's a massive setback. It's kind of like, it's like they're going into a position that maybe we were in previously, where it's like, no matter what we throw at it, we just can't seem to get the job done. And if we finish above them this season, which has been probably one of our worst seasons for a long time in terms of inconsistency. Half the season, we couldn't get a shot on target. I mean, we're celebrating a shot on target against West Ham in the 45-minute under Nuno. You know what I mean? Because it's been like 4 games since we got one. So, for me, I think if we finish above them, one of our worst seasons of all time, and the amount of money they've thrown at, of course it's a major setback for them. It makes them go back to the drawing board, rethink everything, because I don't understand how they can think about winning league titles or winning any sort of trophy if they can't even get above Tottenham Hotspur. If they can't get above us. So for me, I think it's for them, they need to be able to start finishing above us then to be able to go and challenge for the titles, because as we've seen with Tottenham, we will always finish, especially over the last few years, in the European places. Arsenal didn't last season. The amount of money they threw at it, they threw more money at it in the summer than what we did. If they don't close that gap or they don't finish ahead of us, I think it derails everything, and then it puts questions in the mind to go back to the drawing board, and maybe they tinker with things that maybe they shouldn't have, and they tinker with the wrong things.
What do you think? What do you think, Jack?
I mean, what's kind of funny is that being a younger Spurs fan, it's actually something I've gotten quite used to, is finishing above Arsenal.
It's nice, isn't it, being used to that? We had some hard times. We had some hard times.
I haven't had, to go through the pain as much as you guys. But then actually on the flip side, right, younger Arsenal fans who are my age as well have been used to Spurs finishing ahead of them. And they actually don't even talk as much of a big game because they know that Spurs have been finishing ahead of them that long. So to be fair, I think it'd be detrimental to me for my own kind of like years of Spurs fans, because even when we don't win anything, that's been kind of my trophy, every single year is just finishing above them. And I think, it would be a major setback because like David had said, like you guys had said, if this is supposedly their best season, which I actually agree it is, quite some time, if they were still to finish below us after having 6+ days between every game, after also having a huge transfer window, I think that would just be a real kind of, big blow to them, maybe a bit of a humbling, but let's be honest, I think they do deserve a bit of a humbling in plenty of ways. So,
but I'm going to go to bed on this. Do you not think maybe if we do finish above them anyway, they got one of the younger squads in the Premier League, they might just see it as, all right, we didn't do it this year, but we'll go again even harder next season? Or do you genuinely think they would have a bit of a kind of not a crisis, but they will rethink things if they don't get maybe top 4 or finish above Tottenham this season?
No, I don't think they rethink things. I think they think they're on a good path right now with Arteta, with all these young players coming through. They remind me a lot of the young Pochettino team when that was coming through. And when you're looking at the England-Qatar squad as well, they're going to have 4 or 5 players in that squad, right?
Good point.
So, look, I think they think they're on a good path. And I think even if they have a setback this year and not get Champions League, I think they'll believe within themselves that they can get it next year. As much as it pains me to say it, but I think that with the way you look at Arsenal right now, unless they lose some players in the summer, if they just add to what they've got and they add well, I think it'll be another hard slog against Arsenal next season.
Yeah, but it's interesting, isn't it, that if you told Arsenal fans when Arteta was appointed you'll finish 8th and 8th like 2 seasons in a row, would you accept that? They probably would have said no, wouldn't they? But then they're doing well. But if they again finish outside the top 4, or even let's say outside the top 5 or 6th, like that if you told Arsenal fans 8th and 6th, would that be acceptable? They
Yeah,
still
I
would have said
think
no,
if
wouldn't
you
they?
would have told them that before he took over, then fine. But when they're looking at it now, I think they can see the progression that the team is going through, and I think that they will still give it a bit more time.
Progression as we're speaking where they are today, but we have to remember the fixtures they have coming up. They could easily
Yeah, of
jump
course.
to 6,
No,
7,
of
8,
course.
you know?
Yeah, no,
Definitely.
And if they do finish 8th again, around 7th or 8th again, then I think they rethink things. But if they finish just outside the top 4 and just miss out, then I think they'll keep to the plan.
Fair enough. All right, we've got some super chats to get through near the end of the show. Let's go to Lazy801. He says, I thought I was tuned into We Are Tottenham TV, but this must be a live match. I swear I'm looking at Kane, Son, Kulu and Højbjerg on my phone. Who's Son then?
You.
I'm Son.
You're sorry.
Am I? Who's Kane then?
I'm definitely Kane, lad. Come on.
I'll
lad.
take Son.
Jack
Who am I?
Soyberg. Jack Soyberg.
I probably have the most ginger beard though.
Yeah,
so
you're
maybe I'll have to be-
Kulu. Yeah, you're
I'm a
Kulu.
bit
I
more
think Ben's
Kulu.
Højbjerg. Ben kind of looks like Højbjerg in a
What?
way. Yeah, no, yeah.
Fair enough.
Man in the midfield.
I'll take it.
There you
I'll
go.
take it.
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
take
shades,
it.
I think.
Snap it right off. Yeah.
I've never heard that one before,
I've
but
heard
all right.
that one. Yeah, people have said.
Really?
Yeah.
That I look like Højbjerg?
Yeah.
Serious? Yeah. I'll take that.
Get the Højbjerg jersey tomorrow.
on.
Get it out. But big up, Nick. Really appreciate it, man.
I'm doing book signings later on tonight. If you
Matt Hayes, big up Matt Hayes, says, where's the usual host? He's so much better looking than these guys. Big up Matt Hayes. Tommy Castillo says, off subject, but I want your opinion. Start one, bench one, and not in the squad between Ronaldinho, Kaká, and Iniesta.
oh bloody hell!
All in their prime.
Bloody
Cheers.
That's like yeah.
Jack?
FMK.
Start one, bench
say-
one, and not in the squad for Ronaldinho, Kaká, and Iniesta.
Start Ronaldinho if we're talking prime Ronaldinho.
Yeah.
Bench Kaká. I love Iniesta, but yeah, gonna have to get rid of Iniesta.
Wow. David?
Really?
Yeah, I'd be the same as Jack. I start Ronaldinho.
No
probably-
Iniesta in the squad.
Probably bench Kaká. Look, Ronaldinho is one of the best players to ever
Best
live.
player of all time
One of the
in
best
his
players to
prime.
ever live. What he done with the ball.
Is this in the Spurs team, by the way, or just in any random team?
Just doesn't say.
Who are the other players?
It doesn't matter. Irrelevant.
Ronaldinho, one of the best players to ever live, one of the best players on the football. Of course, he has to start. The guy can score goals on his own. He doesn't need other people to pass to. You look at Kaká. Look, I know when Kaká went to Madrid, it kind of went downhill. But up when if you're talking about AC Milan, Kaká again,
we're
one of the
talking
best
about
players
prime,
in the world. Iniesta, look, I think he was a good player in a good system that probably suited him. But I think if you put him into the Premier League, I don't think he lasts. I think you put Ronaldinho and Kaká in the Premier League, I still think
I
he
That was a painful
completely
answer.
disagree with that, man. Iniesta was something
Yeah,
special
I
in that
loved
Barcelona
Iniesta.
team. Iniesta, I think, was, some would say he was the hub of that Barcelona team.
Agreed.
And I think he was something special. But on the flip side of that, Ronaldinho was something that you've never seen
best
before,
ability of all
literally. So I would start Ronaldinho, I would bench Iniesta, and I would take Kaká out of the
that.
team.
What about
Yeah,
yourself,
for
Sam?
me, I would start Iniesta, bench Ronaldinho, and no Kaká out of the squad.
Whoa.
That's what I would do. Because I think Iniesta was over the longer period, he was a
Yeah.
much better player out of all of those players.
But we're not
And
talking
he was
about the
the
longer
best
period, we're
side.
talking about in their prime.
Yeah, and I think Iniesta in his prime, I mean, they're
There's
all
no
so
way he's better.
good.
You're just bitter over on these. He's bitter over on these Dino's free kick against David Seaman. That's what it is.
The Ronaldinho was, in his prime was unbelievable. But I think they're all different positions, though, aren't they? But I
Yeah.
think Iniesta, I think he was the
Tempo setter.
in that
The tempo
time.
setter.
He was the best centre mid in the world, I think.
Yeah.
And as
And-
much
and
as Ronaldinho was maybe one of the best in the world as well, I think for me is Iniesta.
And I have no doubt in my mind Iniesta would do it in the Premier League. I think
Yeah.
he would be an
Yeah.
absolute
Well,
baller in the Premier
Iniesta is
League.
what we've always wanted Harry Winks to be fair, actually.
He is,
Exactly.
Wow.
Iniesta.
We've always wanted him to be
But
that.
see, in Spain though, and in that Barcelona team, you had Busquets doing all the work for them, and then Iniesta doing the nice stuff. In Premier League, you see with Harry Winks, you can't get away with just doing nice stuff. You have to be able to get stuff as well.
Definitely. Emily Dunn says, big up the Irish Hotspur and Jack. Great stream, lads. Hope you're having a great time over there. Come on, you Spurs. Big up
Come
to you,
on.
Emily.
Big up,
Love
Emily.
that.
Legend.
And last one from Wirra Sly says, if we lost to West Ham, talks going to EuroTalk's going to be top 6 race.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Unfortunately, that's correct. Yeah.
Spot on.
Unless Arsenal also lose. and then the talks will be right. But all right, I think that is all we have time for today for the Tottenham Hour. I want to thank David and Jack for coming in person for our first ever in-person Tottenham Hour. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed your time. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, it's been actually a real honor. I'm actually surprised I actually haven't fallen out of my chair at this stage. It's gone that well, but really, absolute blast. Really huge honor. And I can't even believe these, like I said before, I can't even believe these guys all exist.
For real.
And look, me personally, I think it's going to be my last time in the studio on my trip. So look, I really do appreciate you boys having me. It's been an absolute blast. I've really enjoyed it. I felt you've made me feel at home. Thank you so much for welcoming me.
You know why we've made you feel at home? Because you are at home.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So look, I just want to say a massive thank you. Hopefully I haven't burned the ears off all the followers out there and they've actually enjoyed the contribution. And it's great to meet Jacko here as well, in person as well. So I've really enjoyed this hour. So thanks very much, boys. And thanks for making me feel at home. I appreciate it.
All
right, and see you guys Sunday as well for the game.
Yeah,
You're
for the
both going to be
blowers.
there.
Yeah.
So looking forward to get David on the vlog. We'll get Jack on the vlog as well. So
I just
all right.
want to say, if there's any fans out there, please dress up as cats and stuff like that. Bring Hello Kitty balloons, tins of whiskers, cat food, everything you can. Loads of meowing at Kurt Zouma.
I want to
Really trying put
hear
him off his game.
everyone with their biggest meows every time
Yeah.
Kurt Zuma's on the ball.
It should be a thing. Every 5 minutes, everyone just in unison. Meow, meow, every single time, you know. Should be all in unison. One fine choir. Off you go. Cannot wait. And West Ham fans, you don't need your binoculars either. You can actually see the pitch.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for contributing to the show and watching and viewing and liking and super chatting. I really appreciate it. It's been another great hour. It's been another great Tottenham hour. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
Come on,
Spurs.
Spurs.